My name is Ali Golding and I'm Director of Movement Works, a UK-based charity. Our aim is to enhance the learning potential of children of all abilities through dance and movement, and we have a recognised specialism for enhancing the development and growth of individuals on the autistic spectrum. Our methods have been recognised by leading experts in this field, such as Dr. Stephen Shaw and Temple Grandin.
I've really witnessed firsthand the benefits of Movement Works from my class this year. The repetition, routine and structure of each session has really enabled the children to understand expectations, know what to do, therefore giving them a greater level of independence. The sessions include a vast array of sensory elements, therefore meeting a wide range of needs, as well as including cross-curricular links such as music, numeracy and literacy. It's been a real joy to see the progress that the children have made, and they really enjoy each week.
I work alongside a child who's severely autistic, and we've been doing autistic dance for about a year now. You know, it's getting him to use different parts of the brain that he wouldn't necessarily be using in lesson. I just feel that it's really made a big difference for this child's life.
We have been supported by the Royal Society of Arts as a project having real-world impact, and cited in the report by the All-Party Parliamentary Committee for the Arts, Health and Wellbeing. Our work is informed by the latest scientific research, and we are contributing to the evidence base with our own studies. You can find out more and support us by visiting our website www.movementworks.org.
Good morning. Lovely to have you join me here. My name's Ali Golding. That was a little introduction video just to give you an idea of the background of the work that we do at Movement Works, and I'm delighted to be here today for the third time speaking to you about my passionate subject, which is the power of movement for child development. I would like to thank the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority, who have made these sessions possible. And today, again, I'm going to be highlighting the things that really matter and moving the discussion on. So these 3 webinars were designed to be, to have a relationship, to be progressive, but they're also standalone. So if you weren't able to join for the first or the second, you won't necessarily be disadvantaged, but I will go over some of the kind of foundation perspectives so that we're all starting from a baseline of understanding, and then I will launch into what the focus of this discussion is today. So movement is at the heart of childhood development and is much more important than most people realise. In special consideration of these unprecedented times of restrictive movement and social distancing, it has never been more important to gain a deeper understanding of this topic, to be able to best support all children, in particular children with additional needs, who are likely to have missed out on key areas of growth during this period. So as I say, I'm going to introduce the relevant perspectives. Apologies if you're hearing this for the second time, but I think it's really important that we all have this foundation of understanding. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a massive impact on our lifestyles. And if you're joining as a parent of a child with additional needs, you might be concerned that the situation has created even more challenges, but it's also an opportunity to take a broader view on how best to support your child. And perhaps this period of restricted movement has highlighted just how important and connected our bodies and our brains truly are. Yourself, you may have felt more sluggish, more stressed, less focused and possibly less happy. And there's some hard science behind all of these symptoms connecting to the lack of movement. So if any of them are true for you, movement is even more essential for a child's physical and emotional well-being and for their learning potential. So if you weren't able to attend the last two webinars, we're just going to, once again, in brief summary, consider what childhood experts believe the most important things to focus on currently are. And they're not academics, but they are physical, social, and emotional development. And we've also dipped into the neuroscience of movement last week. So in this last episode, we are going to focus on the specific benefits of different movement-based approaches. But let's first revisit some of the data that we've looked at previously. So if we can get the slide up, please, from the British Heart Foundation, because the truth is that even before this pandemic, there was another big issue affecting the vast majority of us, and that's global childhood obesity, well, obesity in general, actually. And there's a concerning proportion of childhood obesity globally, which indicates that we all need to eat less and eat better and move more. So if we can have that slide up once again, please, and you do have it on your handouts. In fact, if you're joining me for the second or third time, you will have already had this, and the idea is that it's really, really something that you're going to take away and remember in the forefront of your mind. Are we able to get the slides up? If not, I will just carry on speaking about it, and you can refer to them in your handouts. The percentage of clinically obese children is already very alarming, and studies suggest as many as 10%, and that figure was on the rise before the lockdown, rising up to around a third of children. With modern technology minimising our every action, even prior to this crisis, we have struggled to reach the recommended amount of physical activity. For preschool children, so that's from age 2, we should be aiming at 180 minutes per day. So please do refer to the data supplied. I'm now going to be referencing the next slide, which was supplied from the British Heart Foundation. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. So there you can see children 2 to 4 years, at least 180 minutes. That's 3 hours spread throughout the day. And on the right there, you can see that we're nowhere near meeting those recommendations. And of course, this applies to grown-ups as well. We're not doing so well either. But of course, for children, it's even more important for a number of reasons that I've previously highlighted and that we're going to discuss from a different perspective today. So if we can move on to the next slide, please, which is from the British Nutrition Foundation, who highlight the kinds of activities that are suitable to being addressed, to being able to address these 180 minutes per day. And you can see there's lots of fantastic suggestions for lighter activity, more energetic activity, and active play. Of course, the issue now is that some of these activities are much more difficult to access with the current circumstances we're in. So as somebody who is advocating, and our organisation is advocating a dance movement approach, you can see that that comes under more energetic activity. And we're going to be focusing today on some of the evidence-based approaches, movement approaches that we offer. You're going to be learning a little bit more about them, and you're going to be able to have some takeaway activities and ideas that you can start to action immediately. So, speaking as a dance scientist, it's not just effective to get children moving more, but it's also a very potent learning tool. and extremely helpful for children who have a variety of additional needs. So thank you for the screen sharing. If I'm able to come back to full screen, and we will be doing some more screen sharing through this webinar. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So at Movement Works, we advocate a movement intervention approach for neurotypical and atypical child development. And this is through a robust and growing evidence base for which we have and continue to contribute our own research. And we have a research paper in progress at the moment that focuses on the benefits for children with autistic spectrum conditions. And if anybody later on at the end has any particular questions regarding supporting children with autism, I'd be very happy to address those in whatever time is left available. With the onset of COVID-19, as a UK-based charity, we have been fortunate to have received a grant from Arts Council England, which means we can take our programme online for the first time, in fact, to support children at home, children of key workers, and vulnerable groups at risk, including children and adults with special needs. So that gives you an idea of the scope of our work and the range of people we support. So this means for a limited time, as long as this grant allows us, wherever you are in the world, you're able to have free access to a movement intervention programme that you, with this knowledge that I'm going to share with you today, can tailor to the needs of your child. So please do stay connected with us and make use of it. Specific information about the benefits of our activities aims to deepen your understanding about the importance of movement and also help you to augment supporting your child with the takeaway activities that I have shared previously, and we're going to do some more of today. So if you do have some space to stand up and move during this webinar, just so that you can really participate in some of the activities that I'm going to be illustrating, that would be fantastic, especially because from the previous webinar where we focused on neuroanatomy, you will know that when you involve your whole body in a movement experience, you're much, much more likely to remember it. So once again, making no apologies for repeating some of these foundation slides, because without that repetition, you're much more likely to forget the information. By doing something, you're much more likely to remember it. So please do try and get involved. So I'm going to start off by talking about our flagship programme, which is called Developmental Dance Movement. It's specifically for children from age 2 to around about 6 years. But if your child has any kind of developmental delay, it may be appropriate for them to join and work with some of the activities within this programme, even if they're a little older. It's been designed scientifically to support child development and address developmental delays. And the benefits have been published in a number of peer-reviewed academic journals and meetings, including the World Conference on Movement and Cognition at Harvard. Developmental dance movement has a sound theoretical underpinning. It's a whole body learning approach. In science terms, that is called embodied cognition. And it's based on the principles of Montessori pedagogy. Now, within the time constraints of this webinar, I'm not able to delve too deep into Montessori pedagogy, but I'm happy to answer questions once again at the end. And there are a vast array of books available if you're interested in that approach. But just in brief, the foundation of Montessori is education through movement. So in a best practice Montessori setting, all of the learning is made concrete through tangible structures that can be conceptualized by a variety of senses. And last week we focused on the importance of stimulating and appropriately stimulating all of the senses. Children in a Montessori setting are free to move around and in fact are encouraged to move and explore learning through these materials and activities provided whilst learning at their own pace. And I'm just going to stop talking briefly just to check. Please tell us about the Montessori books. Yes, I'm going to take questions at the end just so that we don't lose the flow, but I'm happy to signpost those. The objective, therefore, of the Developmental Dance Movement Programme is to support developing cognition and the skills associated with school readiness. Many children, and current studies suggest at least 50%, and again, I'm happy to signpost those studies for anybody who's interested in delving deeper, and that's children with and without additional needs are arriving at school without the baseline of skills required to cope with the demands of formal learning and or the curriculum. And for those of you who joined me on the first webinar, when we looked at the pyramid of learning, we'll have a deeper understanding of what those things and the order of those things might be. I believe even if you weren't able to join, the handouts and the information for the previous two webinars will be available to you. So if you'd like to review those, I'm sure that will be possible. In the previous webinars, we've considered the science of optimizing brain function through movement. So in the DDM program, physical experiences are carefully crafted to maximize positive impact on brain plasticity, development, and function. So those of you who may not have come across that term before, brain plasticity, it's the nature of being able to shape the brain and change the brain through our direct physical concrete experiences. So we know now that the brain, no matter what the baseline, is not fixed, it's adaptable. And we can make changes to the brain by addressing intentional experiences. Some of those include complex movement patterns that promote this connectivity between the two hemispheres of the brain. Last week we looked at brain structure, and those that appropriately stimulate the vestibular and proprioceptive senses. We also looked at those last week, likely to reduce deficits and barriers to learning. This program has been subject to scientific study, and one of the things that we explored in that study is a drawing exercise. The reason being that it's a validated measurement tool, this particular drawing exercise. It's known as the Goodenough Harris Draw a Person test. And what we ask the children to do is to draw. It's a very, very simple, easy to administer tool. The children are asked to draw a person. They're only given a plain piece of paper and an ordinary pencil, and they're asked to draw a person, and they have a limited time to do that, sort of reasonable, between 5 and 10 minutes, and they're asked to draw it the very best that they can. That's a very simple instruction, that's all they're asked to do. And we asked the children to perform this exercise before they did the Developmental Dance Movement Programme. And then 9 weeks later, by the way, the programme is a year long, but this was just a pilot study. So just 9 weeks later, they were asked to do those drawings again. There is some statistical results, and the abstract link of the published study is available for those who want to. But I thought it would be very useful today just to look at those drawings, because they really tell their own stories. Each pre and post drawing tell their own stories. There's lots and lots of these drawings. We had two cohorts of classes, reception classes doing this, but I'm just going to share a handful of them with you, and so that you can have a look and really see the changes that are possible. Of course, these reflect the changes that are made with these brain connections, and also they measure developmental maturity, and I'm sure that these will speak to you when you see the drawings, how much they do mature and develop in a relatively short amount of time. So if we can get these drawings up, please, there's a few of them. Are we able to screen share those and go through them one at a time? I'll just wait until it's possible for those to come up. That's great, thank you so much. So, this first one, the names have obviously been changed for anonymity purposes. So you can see on the left there, Hattie 1, and on the right there, Hattie 2. So just in 9 weeks, the children are asked to draw this person, and you can see that on this particular drawing, obviously there is a head, there is a neck. Children receive points for these drawings on an index scale of possible 0 to maximum 50 points, and then they translate to a hard score and developmentally translated age score. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but I just want you to sort of have a look at those drawings. So you can see on this particular drawing, there's much more detail on the dress. This tells us also how children are developing their sense of proprioception, because of course their ability to make marks on a page is very much dictated by the refinement of these senses. What I love particularly about this drawing is the face. You can see the eyes are much more alert, the sun and the clouds don't get scores, but obviously this is a very happy figure on the right, with the sun shining down on it. Okay, if we can move on to the next drawing, please. Again, sun and clouds. This is an interesting feature because, of course, the children aren't asked to draw anything different in the second drawing. What I love about this development from Joni, again, not the real name, you can see again much more detail on the face. This drawing now has feet and now has fingers, whereas in the previous drawing there are really no arms at all, maybe just a couple of hands and sticks for legs, but not really much more than a dot for feet. Fantastic. If we can move on to the next drawing, please. This child was identified as having additional needs, and you can see on the first drawing we really just have a head and a neck, and nobody drawn at all. And while the second drawing is still relatively simplistic, you can see that the ears have got a lot bigger, that perhaps listening skills have improved through this. And now we definitely have a body, and we have arms and fingers, and feet stroke legs. So quite a change in just 9 weeks. And thank you. If we can move on once again. We're able to move to the next drawing. That would be Yarden's drawing. Fantastic. Yeah. So in Yarden's second drawing, we can see once again ears become a feature, eyes are much more distinct. So, you know, there are trends that you can start to ascertain by looking at a number of drawings. And once again, we've got much more detail in the legs and in the arms and in the core and in the centre body. What I love about these drawings also is you can start to see similarities in development, but also each drawing stays very, very individual to that child. So they're lovely to enjoy, I think. And let's move on to Charlie's drawing. Once again, trend, much more detail in the face and in the centre body. Again, still we can see that there are mark-making similarities in both of those drawings. What I love about this particular drawing is the largeness, how much more of the page the figure takes up. And moving on to Matilda's drawing. This is the last one I'm going to share with you today. An incredible amount of extra detail in this drawing. Once again, I think we have knee joints here now, and much more detail from the neck down to. It's interesting that it almost looks like a spine, or much more detail in the dress and the eyes. And once again, the figure taking up much more space and another sunshine. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing those and that they've spoken to you about the brain connectivity and the developmental possibilities that are there through a movement approach in a relatively short amount of time. That's great. If we can just come back to full screen now. Thank you so much. So I've been talking about the changes possible, but of course you don't have a familiarity with the activities of the programme. I'm going to, sometimes it's easier to describe what it is by describing what it isn't, particularly if you have a sort of certain concept about what a dance class or traditional dance class looks like. A DDM session contrasts to a traditional dance class in a number of ways. First of all, it's not focused on learning styles or steps at all, and it's process rather than performance led. So we're not leading up to any performance. The children are not asked to stand up and show a dance in any way. Activities simultaneously nurture the physical coordination skills and control with social and emotional growth opportunities to allow children to excel in their global learning development. And hopefully you've seen that through those drawings. Multi-sensory learning opportunities cater to different learning dispositions and needs. And in addition, sessions support cross-curricular learning with activities designed to synthesize their understanding by anchoring learning physically in areas including early literacy and maths. So earlier on, I was encouraging you, when we get to some movement activities, and we're just about to do that, to join in physically, because we know that really has a significant impact on memory. So I'm going to just take you through, obviously I can't possibly take you through a year-long programme in an hour's webinar where I'm talking about various different movement approaches, but I'm just going to take you through a couple of activities, one of which we've done before, but we're going to do it in a slightly different way today. So we use beanbags quite a lot. As you can see, this beanbag has a letter on it, and of course we can focus on phonics while we're doing this. So one of the activities, and do excuse me because I'm going to stand up so I can show you this this activity. Hopefully you will join me. If you don't have a beanbag, you can just pretend today, or any soft object would do, like a ball. But the great thing about this is, of course, we can do several things simultaneously. We can work on brain connectivity by doing activities that cross the body midline, going from right to left. And we can also concentrate on the sound. So today, I've chosen for name. So we can say our name. Mine is Ali. The long version of Ali is Addison. Addison. Of course, if you're working with your child, you can do both of your names. And then we can count the number of passes. So Addison has how many passes? Addison has 3 passes. Again, if your name had 2 syllables or 4 syllables, you could share that knowledge. And so we're doing numeracy and literacy in a very, very simple exercise at the same time. The other thing that is useful to do are some very simple alphabet games with things. You can do it just individually, so we can go through the whole alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, etc. Colours, if that's more developmentally appropriate. And of course you can do it in pairs and make it socially interactive. So very difficult for me to demonstrate this on my own, but 2 pairs of hands, 4 hands instead of 2, and we can pass it 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, over to your partner, 3, 4, and we can go both ways. So possibilities are endless with a little bit of creativity and that baseline of knowledge of why activities are there and how they're there to support learning. Numeracy, these are very useful. Playing with dice, or die, 1 die. Got a rather large soft one here, and we can use this for turn-taking activities and encourage some understanding of the different number of spots on each side and what their value is by doing some specific movements for each of the sides of the dice. So they're just a couple of examples of the kind of ways that we integrate movement activities with some early literacy and core curriculum, early numeracy objectives as well. The link to the research is provided for those of you who would like to learn more about that study and that drawing exercise. And so now, conscious of time, I'm going to move on to talking a little bit more about another programme that we offer, which is called Autism Movement Therapy. This is suitable for children from age 6 all the way through to adult. It was founded by Joanne Lara, a colleague of mine who was based in the US, sadly passed away earlier this year, but her work is global and will continue, and I will be supporting that objective still by taking workshops globally, and I believe we will be joining up again with Bright Start for the conference in November. So if you'd like to learn more about it after today, I believe there will certainly be an opportunity for you to do that through the Bright Start Foundation. Individuals affected by autism, this is a specific intervention designed for them that focuses on improving function in the areas of deficit that are known to affect people with a diagnosis of autism or related conditions. So they are speech, language and communication, behaviour support, and responding to the environment. These are all particular challenges to a greater or lesser degree for people or individuals with a diagnosis of autism. Many interventions for autism focus on behaviour strategies, but these frequently ignore difficulties with movement and sensory processing. Science now recognises that movement and cognition are interrelated, and this relationship is mirrored in the neurological organisation of the brain. So if we are, last week we really started to dip into the neuroanatomy, so I don't have time to revisit that other than to say that handout is available. But one of the things that I also spoke about was the chemical reaction in the brain. So we're going to have a brief look at that today. There is a slide that shows the happiness chemicals. So if we could possibly get that slide up, it's also on your handout. I'd just like to use that to, again, highlight how much impact a movement approach can have just in that area of focus. In the previous webinars, we considered the short and the long-term benefits of movement from a scientific perspective. So autism movement therapy, that's fantastic, thank you. Autism movement therapy literally aims to have an effect of waking up the brain. So based on what we know from neuroscience, the short-term benefits of being physically active support the release of these chemicals, and that can have a positive effect on mood, while at the same time reducing stress. So if you look on the happiness chemicals and how to hack them image, you can see that there are four main hormones. Dopamine we call the reward chemical. And while this isn't necessarily obviously supported by movement, you can see at the bottom there it says celebrating little wins. So in an autism movement therapy approach, we make sure that we praise even the smallest of little progressions each time. A lot of people, and this applies to oxytocin as well on the right, a lot of children and adults with autism spend a great deal of time being told, you know, what not to do or what they can't do. And in an autism movement therapy session, we focus on the positive, on the strengths, and on the small wins. And so there is a real positive feedback objective through the specific approach. And then if we move down to the hormones at the bottom, serotonin, of course, is stimulated by it says here meditating, but we spoke a little bit last week about the importance of working with approaches that support awareness and also exercise. And the same thing on the right with endorphins that are released through physical activity as well. So you can see how that as a package can have a really fantastic short-term effect on mood and reducing stress. And individuals with autism are often under a lot of either high, mid or low level stress, depending on the challenges that they face from a sensory processing perspective on a daily basis. Through regular practice, the mid to longer term effects of intervention allow students to enjoy longer periods of focus, concentration and self-regulation. So that's the awareness and self-regulation focused activities that we dipped into last week. If we can lose that slide now, just so I can return to full screen, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Specific exercises are designed to develop communication and motor skills and address behaviours associated with autism. all while having fun. So it's a fun, physical approach that has some really specific and important underlying aims and objectives. And through this fun approach, because it's motivating, AMT has students meeting and achieving their speech, social and academic goals. If we can get, it's very short video clip. It's a parent talking about the benefits of her son attending, this is pre-lockdown, attending an AMT program class, just so you can start to hear a parent's voice, really. Are we able to get that video up, please?
I can attribute this course to Connor's school life being turned around, doing a complete 360. I mean, when he was at school, before he was in a special needs school, he was getting zeros on his daily charts, he was leaving class and going AWOL. Now they're putting extra ticks on his sheets because he's having such a great day. The teachers are coming out giving me thumbs up, his behaviour is positive, he's behaving maturely, he's handling situations completely differently, whereas before he'd fly off the handle. It's just too much of a coincidence for him starting this course and then his behaviour improving, him being able to now manage to tell the time. It's just too much of a coincidence for it to be anything other than this. Anything other than this. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of Connor involved in that, obviously, but the whole thing has definitely it's just been absolutely life-changing for Connor, it really has. I'd be forever grateful of it.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And just to highlight, in case there are any parents watching who maybe are not relating to Connor being, you can see he's doesn't have, you know, specific speech and language. Well, you can't see from that video, but you know, he's able to, you know, converse verbally. The difficulties with his autism were a lot of conceptual and social interaction. So I'd like parents to understand that it supports the full range of autism difficulties. So we equally have children who are much less skilled in the movement domain, who are less skilled or in the verbal domain, or completely non-verbal, not able necessarily at the start to follow any instructions. So it supports the full range of individuals on the autistic spectrum. Obviously, every individual with autism is different. Every individual has specific needs and challenges, and this approach supports all individuals with autism. So I just want to underpin that. It has been evidenced to be an effective progression route from developmental dance movement. So in the UK, we have children doing a developmental dance movement program from a younger age, and then transitioning to an autism movement therapy approach. And as I mentioned earlier, we're in the process of publishing a new peer-reviewed study specifically on the benefits for both these approaches for individuals with autism. I focused last week on the benefits of music for enhancing brain function. So hopefully today, if we're able to get the track up called Mouse, again, I'm going to encourage you to join in. This is a specific activity that's incorporated into the autism movement therapy approach. We spoke about stimulating and understanding body schemas in webinar 1. This is a very simple activity that you can do at home to support physical body awareness, development of schema, and using music to support that motivation and to support brain function as well. So if we're able to get that track up, it's called Mouse, and we're going to do some movement, dance movement activity to the music, and I encourage you to join in, please. So I'm just going to tip my screen once again. If we're able to get our music up, I hope I can hear it. So wiggle your fingers. Tickle your head. Ears, cheeks, nose, chin, tap your chest, shoulder, 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 shoulder. Faster, faster. Stop. Fantastic. Okay, so from there, you can see I'm breathing heavier. I didn't have to explain or give you lots of verbal information, just imitation, copy, very simple instructions, lots of repetition, lots of similar patterning and sequencing that we can then develop and use as a foundation to build skills, to build understanding. Thank you very much for that. The Autism Movement Therapy book is available to purchase online. We know that early intervention is key to better long-term outcomes. Through the physical practice of simple to more complex rhythmic patterns, it also supports some brain-building objectives and is associated with the development of language and, once again, mathematical understanding. So again, in such limited time, it's not possible to delve deeper into that program. But once again, in the conference in November, there is opportunity to both learn more and experience more of that particular approach. So to support our youngest children, we're also offering rhythm and rhyme sessions, and these support children inclusively from infants up to age 2.5, where we can transition into these other activities. These sessions combine traditional nursery rhymes and actions along with modern interpretations and variations and culturally diverse considerations. And we spoke a little bit about that in the previous webinar, how important it is to make these experiences culturally relevant as well. Conscious of time, we're also offering a variety of yoga-based sessions to suit a range of needs and objectives. Some of you might be wondering why yoga is included. Yoga is a powerful healing tool that after centuries of existence is now scientifically proven to have beneficial effects on the brain, emotions, and the neurosystem, including enhanced sensory integration. So the external and the internal body awareness that we focused on previously, proprio and interoception, and self-regulation, these improvements are key to creating new conditions for learning. So if time allows, if we can just get up the slide that shows the emotional brain, that would be fantastic. Or the primitive brain. It's known as the primitive brain, the emotional brain, and in states of high, that's fantastic, thank you. In states of high or even low level prolonged stress, such as the current situation that we're in, our emotional brain comes to the foreground. Going back to those hormones earlier, the emotional brain is fueled by adrenaline, and so it puts us into this fight or flight mode of being, and tends to take over our rational thoughts. So these emotional responses, they also have physical responses as well, so things like feeling our hair standing on end, or a tightness in our gut. So as these feelings manifest physically, they can be recalibrated with conscious movement, breathing, and mindfulness. And we did some mindfulness focused activities in a previous webinar. So as well as the emotional reflexes that exist to protect us in times of danger, we are born with a number of life-preserving and associated physical reflexes that can also be barriers to development and learning, especially if they are not diminished and are left to reside undetected. This is a very complex topic, all of its own, so there's certainly no time to delve deeper in that today, but just to become aware that these things are in existence, may have an impact on your child's development. They are often correlated with children with developmental delay or specific additional needs, but they do respond to movement intervention, and they can become obvious through informed observation. So suffice to say, we are offering a range of yoga-based practice sessions to support your child's development along with these other flagship programs. These range from storytelling and yoga for those who wish to focus on language development, yoga with dance, sensory yoga, which has a focus on sensory integration exercises combined with simple yoga practice and mindfulness exercises, mindful motor sessions, which again use yoga principles but are specifically designed to support children with sensory integration and difficulties with gross and fine motor development, and are ideal for children with special and complex needs. We're also supporting on a Friday needs of parents and carers too, because we all need time to nurture our physical and mental health. Again, these involve a program of laughter yoga, I'm very conscious of time, so I'm not going to delve too deep into the specifics of laughter yoga, but just suffice to say it is a beneficial practice for our whole physiological system, because our brain does not distinguish between spontaneous laughter and voluntary laughter, and it has all of those benefits of those feel-good hormones that we focused on earlier, and can help everybody to elevate their mood and relieve stress. And there's a variety of social dance styles available that are designed for you to join in with your child, to encourage social interactivity and encourage all of us to try something new. So we might not be able to change the circumstances we're in, and our personal environment is limited, but we can still bring novelty to our lives and enrich our experiences in other ways. So I believe we've got, we're moving towards the end of the webinar, so I'd like to leave a couple of minutes for questions, if anybody does have any questions. I do hope that while the sessions are funded and currently free to access, we would love for as many people to really benefit from them as possible. And we're hoping that we will be able to retain an online presence during and beyond the pandemic. So please do have a look at what we're offering and keep in touch with us. Are there, just looking in the chat box for any questions? Yes, that's a very good question. In terms of infants, how much exercise should infants be getting? That's a fantastic question. Infants need regular tummy time, about ideally at least 15 minutes every day, and in addition to that, a minimum of, including tummy time, and in addition another 15 minutes. So half an hour every day at minimum for infants to exercise. And interestingly enough, so I'm just reading other questions as well, and no screen time is recommended. So half an hour minimum exercise, 15 minutes tummy time, 0 screen time. Somebody has asked, please do tell us about the Montessori books. I'd be very happy if you'd like to email info@movementworks.org to give a recommended reading list. The Absorbent Mind is the obvious one that comes to my mind because it's a classic. It's called The Absorbent Mind, but many other books that I'm able to signpost to you. Any more questions? That's a question for the Bright Start Panel Foundation, which has now disappeared from my chat box. So fantastic. I think we're coming to the end of this webinar now. We're a little over time. Any other further questions that I haven't been able to address now, please do email. The handouts for all 3 webinars are available to you, so I'm very aware that I have been referring back to topics that I've focused in on previously, and I hope to stay connected to all of you, and obviously to the Bright Start Foundation. Very much looking forward to the conference upcoming in November. So thank you very much for joining me.